Everybody, Start from the Hot Moon Podcast, and I think on first take, I think we had one of the more interesting and unique basketball conversations I've heard in a long time. Okay, now this is coming off of comments that Shannon Frye has made. I'm going to play the clip, and also I'm going to play right after that Shannon and Leg's response about it, and Stephen A. I'm not gonna play his response. Stephen A. takes the establishment position in the league and all that stuff. Stephen A. is still tied to the old guard of the NBA, which is kind of the problem, right? But this is one of the more unique and more fascinating and better conversations I've heard them have about basketball, because the conversation that I've been hearing on social media a whole lot is just kind of like the debate on the game is boring, too many threes, and it's just too much of hanging on to the past, right? But I'll play these clips and I'll get back to you guys.
Nostalgia is killing the NBA. The 90s basketball, Michael Jordan and Kobe, was not as clean as y'all think it was. Wemby, Bron, Steph, this, that. They compare them to 40 years ago. The rules weren't even the same. Nobody celebrates these new people. So why the would anybody want to be the face of this league where you're going to get on every network for not being somebody from 40 years ago?
Play, or you only average 10 points a game, or what do you know? Who are you? So unless Michael Jordan or Larry Bird or Magic Johnson or one of the Pantheon great players says something, then and only then. But I like the fact that I understand that the 90s, I'm old enough to remember the 90s, but I just think the time is like, we just got to give these guys credit, knowing that the game, Legs, I tell you what, you played in the 90s, so you know this. Do you believe the players in the 90s, compared to today, are they more or less skilled, capital S, 2 L's, ED, are they more or less skilled than today's players?
No, there's no comparison. There's more skilled players in today's game. There's no question.
More skilled than they did.
And you see it every night, by the way. You're watching games, and I'm trying to break the game down. I'm looking, and it's amazing, honestly, the number of guys that have added high-level shot making to their game in the modern NBA.
Yes.
There's no comparison there. There's other areas that I think it's not always that every single next generation is better in every way, because there's other things I can say about the 90s and certain things about the game that I think were better. That's fine. I played in that era. I'm not sitting here every day, though, as this guy that's constantly saying that's not as good as when I played. I don't do that. Right. I think the one thing that I understand when people complain about the fact that they feel like, to your point, they don't know what they're about to watch.
Right.
Because they look at two teams on paper, the matchup, you're excited, schedule came out, I can't wait, buy my tickets, block off that night to watch at home, whatever it may be, you don't feel as certain as you used to when you turn on what you're about.
Okay, so you heard what Shannon Frye and Shannon Sharpe had to say, just about hanging on to the nostalgia of basketball, and it's kind of ruined just the mentality of fans and players of today's game. There's a lot of complaining. I've never heard so much bickering about a league. The NFL, for comparisons, players complain about how, the game has gotten soft here and there, but they don't constantly beat that all the time. The league is still progressing, still moving forward, right? Baseball, they've made changes to the evolution of the game. That was a big theme, that there's nothing wrong with the evolution of the game. Stephen A. mentioned that too, but Stephen A.'s whole standpoint, because I didn't play his clip, was just kind of like, he was like, well, sometimes, there's nothing wrong with comparing and all this other stuff. And it's like, well, that's the whole point Shannon Frye is trying to make. It's like, we haven't allowed players to forge their path and just let them kind of flourish without always have to go back to Jordan, Kobe, trying to compare guys to LeBron James and, compare guys to Magic and Bird. Not all the time, right? Look, man, like in the NFL, there's only a few players that they rarely go back and compare to, right? You don't hear quarterbacks always being compared to Joe Montana and Tom Brady, right? There's only one person in the league currently that gets compared to Tom Brady, and that's only Patrick Mahomes, and that's it, right? Everybody else isn't getting compared. Joe Burrow isn't getting compared. Josh Allen isn't getting compared to the greats all the time. They're like, yo, Josh Allen's a great quarterback. Look at his numbers, You know what I'm saying? But the NBA that has a huge problem with just nonstop comparison, right? And then they take that and say, oh, well, the game. And credit to Leg for at least, he played in the 90s, so at least credit to Legs for at least, understanding that, the game was totally different. And he acknowledges that guys are way more skilled. Yes, Jordan, we can't knock Jordan for the guys that's in front of him that he has to play against, but the level of skill and competition is far more superior, in my opinion, in terms from a skill standpoint than it is today. Right. And a lot of times we always want to compare greats, and I understand the greats for your game, but I mean, you got to look at guys who, they didn't win a whole bunch of championships or didn't win a championship. I mean, for instance, guys, in my opinion, like a Steve Nash, Allen Iverson, and Dirk Nowitzki, I think were very pivotal. First of all, Allen Iverson, just his game. He brought the street ball game, was phenomenal. Brought one of the more dynamic plays as a point guard. And we see a lot of elements of his game today. Dirk Nowitzki, stretch big, right? That was shooting threes all over the place. Very good. And then you see Steve Nash, right? I mean, just a driving, fast-paced point guard, up-tempo guard. I feel like those guys don't get enough credit because they didn't win on a clip in terms of a championship level. And that those guys I mentioned is just my opinion, right? There's probably plenty of other guys that people can mention that's also added to the game that don't get talked about enough. And we don't compare guys to them, but we always compare the guys to the immediate greats. And it makes it hard. And Stephen A. also mentions that, players complain, and he said that Shannon Frye tried to make it against the media. And it's like, no, it's not against the media. The media is the one that's always trying to compare all the time, trying to compare to the greats nonstop, as opposed to appreciating the players and what they are today. And I feel like it's just kind of, it's kind of held the game back. Yeah, the game itself is evolving, but in terms of profiling players, it's like players don't want to be compared. Like Anthony Edwards doesn't want to be the face of the league because he feels that there's going to be pressure of trying to be compared to the greats all the time, as opposed to just appreciating Anthony Edwards for what he is, right? Man, very good conversation, man. Probably one of the best ones I've seen. Didn't play Stephen A. Smith's clip because he proved Shannon Frye's point. Okay, about all that, and I just thought like Shannon Sharpe and Legs understood, and I appreciate that this type of dialogue, right? Because it's kind of like, it's easy to bash on the NBA and saying they take too many threes, and which is a thing. But I mean, the game is gotten better. The game is evolving, and I've always appreciated, and I've always personally appreciated a lot of these young players that are in the league. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, I'm big on Tyrese Maxey. I like Anthony Edwards. I think those guys are good. John Morant, those guys are great. However, Ja got those issues, stuff like that. So I mean, like I'm not just gonna sit there and just compare the guys that I like that are doing well in the league just to the guys of the past. That is absolutely not fair. But great conversation, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all this. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe. I'm out.